Wow, so welcome to the Miracle Worker, and today we are looking at chapter 10 to 12. In the Urtext we're still in chapter 9, but here in the Blue Book that we use, we're starting already with 10, 11 and 12. So halfway 10 starts in the Urtext. But anyway, we're not concerned about that. It's just that when I listen to the recording of the Urtext reading, and I want to listen to chapter 11 or chapter 10, I have to start in chapter earlier. So that's different. There will be a match at a certain point. I remember that with reading it, but so now we're just in chapter 10 and in the Blue Book, and we use that, and I'm not too much concerned with the Urtext right now. So yeah, today chapter 10, to start with the titles. That's always interesting to read because it will tell you something. The title is The Idols of Sickness. And then God or the ego, and then the Holy Spirit's curriculum. That's chapter 12. The Holy Spirit's curriculum. God or the ego. Now that's interesting. You're going to see that in chapter 11. It's like you get to some real fundamental questions. Like, who's my father? You choose who your father is in every moment. Who is my father? So we will come to that. But chapter 10, the idols of sickness, is of course a delicate subject. If there is any differences in words, meaning, and in fact there isn't. So the delicacy is that you gave value to the idea of sickness and made an idol out of it. If you believe it is something, when you release all ideas about it, it will not be what you thought it was. Now, I can say that just like this, and that's not going to be very helpful. I know that. So we're going to really take a look at it. And that's, in a certain sense, a confrontation. It is not so easy to look at things that are precious to you, that you in fact silently admire or hold dear or make an idol out of. So the idols of sickness is then like, that's going to be some serious healing opportunities here, and that's wonderful. That's why we're here. So that's quite unusual what we do here in general. To spend a day with the chapters or spend an hour with the chapters is wonderful. But we're actually dedicating ourselves to receiving this and accepting this and coming to the demonstration of it. Now that is a life work that you do. It's like, this is where I dedicate my life to. And it really becomes more and more clear that that's the case. First you think it is A Course in Miracles, and that's another book. Oh great, yeah, let's read it and get started with it. But then you start doing the exercise, and it's like, yeah, that's great. So how long do I need to do this? A year? Wow, I didn't know that. And from one thing you come into the other. Finally, slowly but certainly realizing the importance that it has, because it's literally guiding you to come to a whole different idea of yourself. And that makes this so different from any other path or book. It is not a book. A Course in Miracles is not a book. It's an experience. It's an transformational journey. You can call it a revolution. It surely is a revolution. In my mind, it is a revolution, because all the self-idolization, the self-control, all the vestiges of fear and hell that I made are going to be changed in, seen for what they are. And in fact, nothing is left of that. In other words, the world that I thought was so important suddenly appears to be something else completely different, and in fact has no meaning whatsoever and can disappear all the time. And in this, because if it would just to get rid of it, we would just see it for what it is and then disappear out of it. But now here in this setup that we find ourselves, there's actually given us the opportunity to give this away, to in fact give this to your brother, so that the same thing can happen, in fact, even though it will be an individual trajectory. It will be so individual, but still it is like, you can trust this. Follow the footsteps. Yes, come on. Yes, let's do this. So it's like you inspire literally by your example and by your presence, by you undergoing this process of suddenly setting yourself, having an experience of the freedom of your true identity, and that radiates. That's literally your charisma, you could say. That's your radiation into this world, and whatever comes to you in that sense, whoever's coming to you, that can pick up and resonates with you, is there just for you to give to, recognizing that you only give to yourself, and recognizing, and this is what I realize now too, more and more, like it's not about trying to explain A Course in Miracles as much as you can, or trying to do this or trying to do that. No, it's like resting in this beingness of the Course in Miracles that you are. Like you are the miracle. Now you don't have to do anything for that. If there's anything to do, it is like getting out of the way and trusting what's going on, trusting that the light literally has all the power shining through you, extending through you. So any attempt to make something of that would be another making of another dream, another world, and that's not the goal of A Course in Miracles. So it's literally starting to rest in that what you recognize yourself to be, and that is a path. That is a path, a pathless path, because in the end you realize that nothing happened, that you didn't go anywhere. Your beingness was already guaranteed and completely secured in embracing arms, or in a good father, you could say, who loves his son so much that he let him do literally everything, even things that are delusional, and still being ready to receive him with open arms all the time. So that is quite something, of course. That is your return home. This is your prodigal trajectory. You ran away from home, now you're coming home. You ran away from home. So if you could say like the total distance of the journey doesn't matter with how many pigs you have been eating, or how many pig food you have been eating. It doesn't matter. Like in the end, the story is gone. It's over. And by the way, that was a biblical reference to the prodigal son. He was eating with the swines at a certain point. So that's why I'm saying this. Not for any other reason. So, here we are, stepping into chapter 10. And I cannot tell you what a great delight it is to go through the chapters, to read and listen to them, and to, let this be with you. The only thing that I discover is that I want to go more into the chapters and reading more. It's like, oh, this chapter is also so useful to take a good look at. Oh, how beautiful is this? And then recognizing that we did take a look at it and it was beautiful, but still, like it's endless, it's creative. It is not that you become satisfied with what you read. No, the satisfaction is in exploring this, in discovering there's more. There's always a deeper layer to discover, and it just goes on and on and on. So I try in this to stay completely open, to extend this to you in all its simplicity. While if you read it, it might sound really complicated, but don't be distracted by it. Like, the most important part in this is that you, in fact, allow yourself to be open and receptive, and not be analytical in that sense, or not trying to get it or use it to apply it in your human life or anything. It's like, that's a waste of time. Skip that, and you will see how the miracle works. The miracle doesn't work by your doing. Now, this is always great to realize. So the miracle is what you are, and in that it works perfectly. So the only disturbance would be if you consider it or compare it or analyze it or adjust it or try to modify it into something that seems to be useful for you. Like, when that happens, then in fact the miracle is gone. Then you're shaping it, then you're giving it form, and or projecting it. That will be a word that we hear today too. Like, you will be projecting instead of extending, which is totally different. Now we'll go more into these specific principles that are taking place, or that are active, you could say. So we'll see what comes first. All right, so the setup is the same. So I use sheets just to, in fact, already summarize the chapters. Now I have 3 chapters, so that's like half an hour per chapter, just about. I try to stay with that. But I recognize too that even in the introduction to this, I already tell you a segment that is present in all 3 of the chapters. So that's why it seems like, okay, now you're only, like, the first chapter might spend 3/4 of an hour on, and the rest a quarter or whatever. It's like, that doesn't matter, because there's literally like an overlap that is certainly the continuation or the integrity of the whole teaching. It is one, in fact, one teaching, one idea. So this chapter was called like assigned guidance. So you will see why it is assigned, it is given to you, it is already organized for you. It is available, so it's only for you to receive, you could say, but it's assigned already. So you will accept it at a certain point. Of course, there's your choice. When is that going to happen? Now here we go. So, here, either God or the ego is insane. Now this was like something to consider. Like, either God or the ego is insane. And where does that relate to? Well, this is literally being shared in chapter 10. Either God or the ego is insane. And the thing is that you believe that your thoughts make sense, or your ideas make sense, or your own guidance makes sense. So when you believe that makes sense, then you actually say, like, God is insane. Because I have my ego thoughts, I know what to do, I know how to work this, and God is insane. I'm not going to listen to God. I already found something that's helpful to me. So this is in fact a consideration that you make, and you like one part of it, like you could easily say, like, yeah, the ego's insane, but then that also means then that you're not going to follow its guidance. So in other words, you will not follow anything that is based on fear and limitation, or on time, or on condemnation or judgment. So this entails, like, this expression entails more than you think. So it's a great line for contemplation. Not that you have to find the answer, But when you put this in your contemplation, you could say, like, let truth tell you all about this. Now here we go. So this is a bit where we left off last week too. It's like there's nothing outside yourself that can do anything to you. This is a huge step in the reversal of the thinking. It's a huge step because you have believed that something outside yourself can do something to you, whether it's being hateful or loving, whatever. It seems that there's something out there that can do something to you. And so in the change of thought, in the lessons that we do, this is an essential part. I think up to chapter 21, this is a returning subject. It keeps coming back. Like, no, there's nothing outside of you. No, nothing can cause you harm. No. It's like all of this. Cause and effect. Reversal of cause and effect. No, the cause is not outside yourself. No, nothing can have an effect on you if you realize who you are. So here we start. From the introduction, I think it is, nothing beyond yourself can make you fearful or loving, because nothing is beyond you. Time and eternity are both in your mind, and will conflict until you perceive time solely as a means to regain eternity. Until you see that time is only here, like not to make a world and not to make a this and a that and like your whole world that you want to make. Like until you use time solely with the function of returning back to eternity, then you're missing something. Then something is not going the way it's supposed to be. Like time is only for one instant to remember, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. Let's go. Let's get out of here. I don't need to stay in time. Now this seems like, wow, that's extreme, or that's revolutionary. And it is. But it's also reality. So it is your reality. And now I don't have to tell you that you can come up with all kinds of things that you think you should do first before you can return back to eternity. And of course you do. So this is in fact what is given. There's this instant, eternity right here, right now is eternity. An eternal moment is right here. Now, you can step away from it for a moment and return back to it. Like, okay, now I'm just doing this and this and this. I return back, here's my meditation, and suddenly I realize there's only eternity. Like suddenly I come into the experience of that, which would be what a miracle is. I step out of time for a moment. I experience something else. Now this is a fundamental step that you do. You step into time to do things and return back to this moment. So here it is not to attack yourself or judge yourself. No, this is about recognition. Do you recognize that that is what you do? Because as soon as you use time solely to return back to eternality, you could say, you're actually using time in the way where it's for. And why is that? So we're going to see that. I'm not going to... So here we are. Time and eternity are both in your mind, right? And will conflict until you perceive time solely as a means to regain eternity. Yeah, I call this too many times. It's like, I call this returning back to your peace. Like if your peace is disturbed by conflict, you're in fact doing something that you don't have to do. You can release that. You don't have to do that. And you will find back your peace, so to speak. And that is, you can say that is regaining eternity. You cannot do this as long as you believe that anything happening to you is caused by factors outside yourself. this is a far-stretched expression. So you cannot do this as long as you believe that anything happening to you is caused by factors outside yourself. You must learn that time is solely at your disposal and that nothing in the world can take this responsibility from you. You can violate God's laws in your imagination, but you cannot escape them. They were established for your protection and are as inviolate as your safety. So this is good to realize. It's like nothing in the world can take this responsibility for you, away from you. And you can violate God's laws in your imagination, but you cannot escape them from them, which is God's law of love. It's not a limitation, it's God's law of love. Like returning back to who you truly are, recognizing that you reside in eternity, not anywhere else. So this is what it says then. You can violate God's laws in your imagination, like you can dream as much as you want, but it will not make it real. You cannot escape God's laws of love. So you can make it as dark as you want. You can have them find yourself in the most incredible dark dreams, nightmares, but still you cannot escape God's laws of love. So they're always there because they were established for protection and are as inviolate as your safety. So God created nothing beside you, and nothing beside you exists, for you are part of Him. What except Him can exist? Nothing beyond Him can happen, because nothing except Him is real. Your creations add to Him as you do, but nothing is added that is different, because everything has always been. Now this is like a Zen koan, and you've heard of this, like what is the sound of one hand clapping? Well, this is almost the same. God created nothing beside you, and nothing beside you exists, for you are part of Him. What except Him can exist? Well, if there's nothing outside of Him, then nothing else can exist. Nothing beyond Him can happen, because nothing except Him is real. Your creations add to Him as you do, but nothing is added that is different, because everything has always been. Well, this is a nice one for contemplation too. It's like there's no way of explaining this, but there's a whole way of recognizing what's being shared here. It's like however you want to turn it, like there's nothing that you add to what God created, but you can add to the kingdom. It's like you can add your happiness and joy to the kingdom, but that doesn't change anything because it has always been. That would be the same as trying to explain eternity. Now, what is eternity? Does eternity have something to do with time? No, not at all. So here we fall into the same idea. What can upset you except the ephemeral? And how can the ephemeral be real if you are God's only creation and He created you eternal? Yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah, what can upset you except the ephemeral? And how can the ephemeral be real if you are God's only creation and He created you eternal? Yeah, indeed. What could that possibly be? If it's something temporal, that cannot be, because God is eternal. Now you see that the expressions that we used just a moment ago have everything to do with this too, because like time you use now, if you use it on behalf of reality, you use time only to return back to eternity. Now that's easy. If you see it like that and practice it like that and become it like that, then it's easy. Now if I get distracted by something temporal and am absorbed by it, you could say, completely, then I cannot experience my eternality. So I think I'm separate from it. And I think that's my reality. Now we see this in the lessons too. So this theme comes back all the time. Now here also this comes back to the question, either God is insane or the ego is insane. Like one or the other is insane. The ego believes in time because it works with time. In your thinking, in your human thinking, you work with the idea of time. Basically, the temporalness of time is an absolute tool of the ego, because it uses it to make sure that you live with an idea, you could say, you live with an idea of temporalness, that however long this is going to take, it will end at a certain point. I will die. I will go from here. My body will be dead and I will be gone. So it uses it continuously in all its views and all its, in fact, in all its actions. So in your human way of thinking, it is always time related, and you feel, to a certain extent, you feel the pressure of a deadline. It's like this will be over at a certain point, and then what? I got to finish this before this, or I got to do this and this and this. Like it literally is an occupation. It's like a preoccupation of mind to walk around with an idea that you're going to die. In fact, you could say if that is ingrained in your thinking, then you are already dead. Because what is the difference between this little slot of time in which that appears to happen? Or if that would be 1 second or 100 years, what is the difference between that? Like, it will be over like this. So this brings us back, like, no, in eternity you live literally like that is happening in this moment. This is an eternal moment. This is what is. There is nothing else. There is no timeline and no deadline. There is no such thing. So what God created is eternal, otherwise it wouldn't be God's creation. Now first you start to believe that, but you start to receive that idea. Now this in fact brings you back right here. That's why you could say it's very grounding as an idea. It brings you here. You can be totally present here now, and that's perfectly all right. There's nothing that needs to be accomplished. Now you can imagine that only this can bring you peace, to an experience of peace and deep love, because you found it. You don't have to go anywhere anymore. You don't have to look for it. No, you found it. It is happening here. It's not going to happen in the future. Now, if I'm completely open to receive it right now, I in fact fulfill and am wholly a part of the working of God's law of love. I will be in a love experience. There will not be a conflict of that I should be doing something else before I die or anything like this. Like, so the bucket list can go now. You don't need that anymore. So yeah, your holy mind establishes everything that happens to you. Every response you make to everything you perceive is up to you, because your mind determines your perception of it. See, this idea starts to work a little bit now too. Like, every response you make to everything you perceive is up to you. Like, you can make it real or not. That's in fact the choice. You can see it as reality, or you recognize it as delusion, because your mind determines your perception of it. You're free to choose. Nothing can reach you from beyond it, because being in God, you encompass everything. Believing this, and you will realize how much is up to you. And it becomes slowly but certainly becomes very obvious. There's so much up to you in recognition, and what are you establishing as real, or what are you accepting as real, or what do you recognize isn't real at all while you were thinking it is real. When anything threatens your peace of mind, see, here we go again. It's like we're in the middle of eternal experience of ourself. Now here, suddenly something seems to threaten me. Yeah, in fact, glitches me out of this present moment, it seems like. When anything threatens your peace of mind, ask yourself, has God changed his mind about me? Like, are suddenly God's laws not working anymore? Has God changed his mind about me? Then accept his decision, for it is indeed changeless, and refuse to change your mind about yourself. God will never decide against you, or he would be deciding against himself. So here it says, like, don't change your mind, refuse to change your mind. Like, there's no adaptation to be made. When something threatens your peace of mind, you can ask yourself, has God changed his mind about me? And then, no, of course not. Of course he did not do that. So I don't have to change my mind thinking that there can be a disruption of my peace. I don't have to let that occur. That's in fact what this says. Now here, you are at home in God, dreaming of exile, but perfectly capable of awakening to reality. It is your decision to do so. Is it your decision to do so? Your recognition from your own experience that what you see in dreams you think is real while you are asleep. You are at home in God, dreaming of exile, but perfectly capable of awakening to reality. Is it your decision to do so? Well, you recognize from your own experience that what you see in dreams you think is real while you are asleep. Now, in this process of waking up, you start to question that. Is what is happening, is what I'm perceiving, is that real? Well, it can hardly be real. It doesn't seem real to me. So slowly but certainly you awaken from, and it doesn't have to be slowly, but it can be, and that's all right too. You're going to awaken because you are at home in God, dreaming of exile. And dreaming of exile is in fact, what happens is like you allow this distortion. You see that there was a choice to allow this distortion to take place, to think that something can take your peace away. And in fact, going into that idea, into this detour into fear, you really go into it and make it real for yourself, suffer the consequences of it. Yeah, there's no small or big, but it's like it's either real or not. What you experience in your limitation, what you experience in your contraction, in your fear, yeah, that is up to you to recognize it for what it is. Like literally, this is what it says somewhere too. I don't know if it's this chapter, but like, if you're afraid, like, it is not that anyone else can change his mind about it, can change your mind about it. So to ask Jesus to change that, for instance, would be like, no, that's not possible. I cannot do that for you. You have to see this for what it is. Like fear, as long as there's an idea of fear or disruption of peace, you in fact choose to sleep. And you don't recognize that that could never be the case. So coming back to our basic question here, either God is insane or the ego is insane. Well, God is not insane. He is sanity itself. He created you perfectly. So you cannot speak of insanity. So then the ego must be insane. So what I think about whatever I think is going on must be insane, because it disturbs my peace. It takes me out of my, in fact, my eternal experience of myself, putting me in time, into limitation, distraction, contraction, and that can never be real. To believe a son of God is sick is to worship the same idols as he does. God created love, not idolatry. All forms of idolatry are caricatures of creation, taught by sick minds, too divided to know that creation shares power and never usurps it. Sickness is idolatry because it is the belief that power can be taken from you. Yet this is impossible because you are part of God, who is all power. So this is like put back into absolute simplicity and clarity for you. To believe a son of God is sick is to worship the same idol as he does. God created love, not idolatry. All forms of idolatry are caricatures of creation. They're not creation itself. Taught by sick minds too divided to know that creation shares power and never usurps it. Sickness is idolatry because it is the belief that power can be taken from you. Yet this is impossible because you are part of God, who is all power. Now we continue with the next, and it's still here. Yeah, this is also part of that. Reality can dawn only on an unclouded mind. Okay, that's one step further. So let's stick with this here for a second. Now, why is this being called an idol? The idols of sickness was the title also of this chapter. It's like the idols of sickness. It is like you have, in fact, given your power away to something. Like you can project it on your body. You can project it on the idea of sickness, thinking that the big C is an incredible power. That's a real threat. Or that COVID is a real threat, for instance. Like, that's also a big C, by the way. So all these big C's, whatever form they might have, whatever, it's like that is in the eyes of fear a great threat. Now, in fact, by acknowledging it and esteeming it as real, you make it to a god. So this is like an idol. You make an idol out of it. It is something you have to take care of, watch carefully, because it is a great threat for your continuity. It is a life-threatening disease, for instance, and this is what an idol is. Literally, you have given that all the power. Now, here's the thing, what it's being shared, and which is so incredibly comforting if you can hear it, is like the beauty of this is, no, creation never usurps the power. It says like, I'm powerful and you have to listen to me. It's like, that is not how creation works. Creation shares power. Like always, equality is eminent here. Like that is the thing that is happening. So it will never have an opposing power. No, it is the drive, it is the power that is being shared. And so it's never against anything. It has no opposition. Now this is hard to believe for an ego mind, because the ego loves specificity. Like he loves to be special, loves to have an incredible disease, life-threatening, with all the all the bells and whistles on it, and making that a complete threat for your continuity. Like that, so that gives you the idea of you're scared, you're afraid of it, that it might get you. And this is exactly the position where your ego mind is looking for. So in fact, it puts the idol right on the throne of God, reigning over you. And this is complete insanity if you know what creation is. Like, creation is shared. It is love. It is extension. It is communication. It doesn't have an opposite. It is not two camps. It is no opposites. It's eternality. It's extending forever. Like a passionate, creative force, shared equally with everyone. See how insane then that idea of sickness is, to think that something out there can do something to you, as if there is such a thing as an opposing power. Like, no, there's no power here. No, there's one power, and that's the power that we share. And in that, all healing can take place. There's no threat. There's no emergency. None of this. There's no contraction. There's no fear. There's nothing to fear. See, this is like the the battleground between the ego and its imagined opponent. This is in your mind, literally, like the imagined opponent. You fight your imagined opponent. Is that a real occurrence? No, not at all. Is there anything happening? No. It is too silly to look at even. It's laughing. If you recognize it for what it is, you only can laugh about it, what you have believed, thinking that that is what power is. Like, then you have no idea what the power of the universe is, which is shared and equal to everyone. No opposition. There's no opposing power. That's why to ask God to remove something for you or to heal something for you would be just as an insane idea as anything else that you can think about, a force outside yourself. Like, God is not a force outside yourself. But one thing for sure, it must start to dawn now in your mind how insane the ego mind is, how insane your human mind is. The ideas that you've been following and accepting for hundreds of lifetimes, like, oh yes, for a long, long time, you really thought that there was something to defend yourself against, not realizing that there is no such thing. To the next episode here. Reality can dawn only on an unclouded mind. It is always there to be accepted, but its acceptance depends on your willingness to have it. To know reality must involve the willingness to judge unreality. Here it is. To know reality must involve the willingness to judge unreality for what it is. Otherwise you say, like, yes, I want a piece of God. Yes, I want a piece of God, and I want a bit of my sickness too, and I want a bit of that, and a bit of judgment to my brother because I really hate him. Like, no, this is not how that works. So it involves the willingness to judge unreality for what it is, to overlook. So here's some real practical advice here, guidance. To know reality must involve the willingness to judge unreality for what it is. To overlook nothingness is merely to judge it correctly. And because of your ability to evaluate it truly, let it go. Knowledge cannot dawn on a mind full of illusions because truth and illusions are irreconcilable. Truth is whole and cannot be known by part of a mind. And this is the part that you don't like, really, because this is work. This is a bit of work to judge things truly, seeing that anything temporal can never be a threat, and accepting that idea. It's like you judge it truly, and then in fact you accept that idea. Like, that cannot be real. It simply cannot be real. So here's a lot of work, in fact, in chapter 10. It's like to see the idols of sickness is really like a god I've made. And whether this sickness is physical, whether the sickness is mental, whether the sickness is however it looks, it really doesn't matter. Thinking that there's anything outside yourself that can attack you, that is a power outside of you, that's having an effect on you, is what the sickness is. It doesn't need to be physical sickness. It's all the same idea in that sense. Thinking that there's something that can do something to you. There's no such thing, because power is shared. In creation, power is shared. It's never usurped. It's never taken for its own to use against something. So that's why we always come back to this beingness instead of having and doing. No, it's like beingness. It is so. It is so. It's what I am, and it's right here. Yeah, this is so. That's so great, and literally that is the. I have no other word for it. It's like it's the melting pot where love melts into itself. It is the melting pot. This moment is the melting pot of love melting into itself. You can run away from it as much as you like, or you either melt into this moment and allow that to be whole, because literally it is already whole, so you might as well have the full blast of the experience. If God is power and this power is shared, it is yours. Now, how great is that to feel that, to be that? So this is really wonderful. Now, of course, we spent too much time on chapter 10, so here we go. Chapter 11, starting with an amazing question. Who is my father? Now, that might be a question that has been running in your life, but then more like, who is my father? Yeah, there was an old association, that came up for me. It was like this very cute little, there was this tiny little chicken with even the eggshell on his head. It's called Calimero. It's always asking around, like, are you my daddy? Something like this. And it was very lovely. So that image came up for me today when I was reading this. Are you my daddy? And so, in fact, you're looking for an answer to that all the time, or you take the answer, in fact, to the question, who is my father? You answer that question in everything you do. And now I can say that, but in fact, this would be the ideal moment to contemplate that a little bit. Who is my father? Who is my father? Am I recognizing during the day that I'm actually answering that question continuously in whatever occurs? Now, when I say contemplation, I also mean now, like, we can be still with this for a moment or listen to some music and relaxing into this idea and taking a look at it. Who is my father? Who is my father? So the question is then, did you get an answer? I hope so. It's so great to get an answer. So these questions are so simple but so good, because it's like, this is where it comes down to. Who is my father? Now, this can come to you like any time. Anytime you ask this, like, who is my father? Or who is walking with me? That would be the same idea. So you ask it for one instant and you mean it, and you actually want to know. You open up your consciousness and you are in an experience of where you experience who your father is. Now, this is beyond words, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's a great contemplation. Thank you for taking part in it. And so yeah, we continue with chapter 11, which is a great chapter again. To be alone is to be separated from infinity. But how can this be if infinity has no end? Yeah, that makes sense. So these questions are really helpful. To be alone is to be separate from infinity. Well, you can easily say, yeah, indeed. And then, but how can this be if infinity has no end? Let's be reasonable. Infinity is forever. Now, how can you be separate from what is forever? No one can be beyond the limitless, because what has no limits must be everywhere. There are no beginnings and no endings in God, whose universe is Himself. Can you exclude yourself from the universe or from God, who is the universe? I and my Father are one with you, for you are part of us. Do you really believe that part of God can be missing or lost to Him? see, the beauty of this is like, it is not confirmed, it is asked of you. It's like, just for a moment, take a look at this. Does it make sense what I'm saying here? Check me out here. Like, does it make sense what I'm asking here? This is really what Jesus and what God, in fact, invites you to. Like, wait a minute, let's take a look at this. Does it make sense that there's something apart from infinity? While there's no end to it, it's infinite, it's all-encompassing, so it's like everywhere. Can you be separate from anything that's everywhere? Well, you tell me. I'm not forcing any idea upon you. It's like, just, what do you say? It's like, healing is reasonable, that's for sure. It's like, it's so reasonable. You have to just be very honest with yourself in order to accept this and to admit it. Like, no, it doesn't make any sense. But you're thinking it. So you're thinking it. Now, what are you going to do with that? Are you changing your ideas now? Letting go of these ideas that you held on to as beliefs? Like, well, that's a real good possibility to discover what eternity is. Because what we read in chapter 10 too is like, you accept one idea, one limited idea, and your whole idea of limitlessness is gone. It's literally, you deny it by that one thought. And this is the part that is hard to digest, because the ego mind, you could say, the ego mind is always willing to make a compromise. But here, there's no compromise to be made. It's like, it's either eternal or it isn't. Either God is insane or the ego. There's no in-between. There's no gray area. And the gray area is where our expertise lies. We want to make a deal. We want to work it out together with conflicting ideas entering up somewhere in the middle, thinking that, well, you have to sacrifice a bit of truth in order to come to a pragmatic solution to the whole setup here. It's like, no, that's not what is asked. So the non-compromising part of this makes it possible and complete. And like, it cannot sacrifice any of itself, because it is everything. The rest is not. I and my Father are one with you. That's we love that expression. I and my Father are one with you too. Like, with you, because you're part of us. There's only one of us in that sense. So do you really believe that part of God can be missing or lost to him? Well, yeah, you really believe that, but it's really not true. So now you recognize that that is an old belief that I don't have to hold on to. Healing is a sign that you want to make whole. And this willingness opens your ears to the voice of the Holy Spirit, whose message is wholeness. He will enable you to go far beyond the healing you would undertake, for beside your small willingness to make whole, he will lay his own complete will and make yours whole. Now that sounds as great support. So healing is a sign that you want to make whole. So in fact, you cannot accept any kind of fragmentation. Is what it says here. It's like, you cannot think in terms of fragments anymore, or compromise, or trying to, like a little bit of gray area, accepting a little bit of gray area. You don't want to do that anymore. It's like, no, healing is wholeness, is like willingness to become whole, to recognize your wholeness. So in that sense, it is opening your mind to what is present here and now. And this makes it that you start to hear the voice for God or the Holy Spirit. Like, why is that happening exactly then? Because it is always present here and now, in a timeless moment, in a moment that is not ruled by time, in a moment that is not, say, made by time, or it's not taking place in time. That's where the Holy Spirit speaks. And so how to look at that then? It's like, how do you do that? Well, it's like, it is showing your willingness for it to become whole. Like literally you say like, yes, I want to believe that there's only one thing, that separation cannot be. I'm very willing to accept that idea, and I accept that idea. So in that moment, in fact, you open your mind for the voice speaking to you. But that's exactly the place where it takes place. In fact, you say, let go of past and future ideas, belief systems, and crazy ideas, insanity. You leave it behind for just that moment. And this, of course, we share this a lot, but that's exactly where it takes place. Otherwise, you cannot hear it, because then you're already occupied with a little separate idea, that a little fragment, you could say, a little fragment that doesn't belong to anything. Oh, my child, and this is so lovely. Oh, my child, if you knew what God wills for you, and here's the Father speaking, like, oh, my child, if you knew what God wills for you, your joy would be complete. And what He wills has happened, for it was always true. And it will always be true. It will forever be true. When the light comes and you have said, God's will is mine, you will see such beauty that you will know it is not of you. Out of your joy, you will create beauty in His name. For your joy could no more be contained than His. The bleak little world will vanish into nothingness, and your heart will be so filled with joy that it will leap into heaven and into the presence of God. See, this is another incredible contemplation of prayer, or reminder, that is very useful to contemplate, to stand still with. It's like, when the light comes and you have said, God's will is mine. When I say God's will is mine, I also mean that what I have called my will cannot be different from God's will. So I'm accepting God's will because it is mine. So in other words, you already made a huge step by admitting that God's will is mine. And that's not a sacrifice, that's not a limitation. No, it's a recognition of what is true. That has always been like that. In my imagination, I thought I had my own will and did whatever I wanted. But now I want only God's will for me. Because the light has come. I've received this. Out of your joy you will create beauty in His name, for your joy could no more be contained than His. The bleak little world will vanish into nothingness, and your heart will be so filled with joy that it will leap into heaven and into the presence of God. So absolutely beautiful. Your peace lies in its limitlessness. Limit the peace you share, and you yourself must be unknown to you. Every altar to God is part of you, because the light He created is one with Him. So this means the next thing, and this is like, oh, you love these words, like your peace lies in its limitlessness. Limit the peace you share, and yourself must be unknown to you. That's the idea that you don't really like. Every altar to God is part of you, because the light He created is one with Him. Yeah, we like that idea again. Like, every altar to God is part of you, because the light He created is one with Him. Now here's the thing, would you cut off a brother from the light that is yours? You would not do so if you realize that you can darken only your own mind. As you bring him back, so will you return. That is the law of God. as you bring him back, so will you return. That's the law of God for the protection of the wholeness of his Son. Yeah, so I remember in the Alcoholics Anonymous time, that there was an expression like when you judge a brother, when you cut him off in that sense, it is like you drink a glass of poison and you think your brother is going to be toxified by it. And that's the idea. It's like you judge, you condemn your brother, and that's only hurting you. And like that brings you in darkness. And for the rest, nothing is occurring. It's literally like that. It's like you are experiencing the effects of your toxic mind when you do that. It literally intoxicates you. And suddenly there's all clouds and darkness in this condemnation that you give to yourself. And you can, of course, change your mind and see that you're, right, by being willing to recognize the wholeness, that peace can return back to you. And you see that, oh my God, your brother is actually your savior, because now when you give up your idea about your brother and about yourself, you also recognize that who is your father, that God is your father. You recognize it, and that will give you the comfort that you were looking for and that you seem to have lost for a moment. So that's the intoxicating part. And then in the experience, you really think you're alone when you start cutting out your brother. It is impossible not to believe what you see, but it is equally impossible to see what you do not believe. Perceptions are built up on the basis of experience, and experience leads to beliefs. It is not until beliefs are fixed that perceptions stabilize. In effect, then, what you believe, you do see. That is what I meant when I said, "Blessed are ye who have not seen and still believe, for those who believe in the resurrection will see it." That's from perception to resurrection. Like the impossible, it is impossible not to believe what you see because you're actually seeing it. So you see proof of it. But it's equally impossible to see what you do not believe. Perceptions are built upon the basis of experience, and experience leads to beliefs. You go through the same experience a couple of times and it forms a belief, and it almost forms a fact. You almost think it is a real fact. It is not until beliefs are fixed that when a belief is fixed, it is a fact, that perception stabilizes. In effect, then, what you believe, you do see. That is what I meant when I said, "Blessed are ye who have not seen and still believe, for those who believe in the resurrection will see it." Yeah, this is another way of saying, like, it's like there are many expressions like this. Because it is impossible, it is certain. That's another expression like this. Because it is impossible, it is certain. Like, if you could perceive it and you can make your perception of it and a belief system, then it could never be true. Because truth has nothing to do with images. Well, we went through this before. It's like images have nothing to do with truth. No, images have to do with belief and with experiences that you have which seem to you is real. But then again, you trust your eyes in what you see and don't doubt it. Now, when you start to recognize that your meaningless ideas is what you see, then that takes away the reality out of it, you could say. And there must be something else that I do not see. There's such thing as resurrection. There's such thing as ascension. There's such thing as light. Can I see light? Well, I can see a light of the lamp, but that's not the light we're speaking about. The light of knowing, like the light of knowledge, the brightness of heaven. has nothing to do with a lamp or anything like that. So it's like an awakening experience. So here then, if you believe in the resurrection while you don't even see it, it will come to you. So this is like, now do we have to believe in a resurrection? Like, no, it's more like you recognize that Jesus resurrected. So that means that you must have resurrected too. And that means that that is very familiar to you once you realize that that idea is possible within you, and that it did happen, and that it was successful. And why is that so? Because we just saw also that there's only one of us. There's not different ones of us. No, it's like there's one of us, whole. There's a whole. God, I and my Father are one with you as one. So it's like, if there's a resurrection that has been taking place and that is taking place, it must happen to you. It cannot be separate from you, that it's happening to someone else, because there literally is not someone else. Now see, this is all about then acceptance of the idea that there cannot be anything outside yourself. So in this recognition, it places everything in your lap. It brings everything in your lap. It's like, take a look at this. No, the resurrection took place in you. When we say like he is risen, you actually mean yourself. You are risen. Yes, I'm risen indeed. And I believe that. And it will be my experience, because I'm in fact releasing every idea that I held about myself that isn't true. I'm willing to look at it because I want that healing to take place. And I want to say, I come into the expression of God's will is mine. So here's fundamental and like so incredibly speeded up realization being offered. You have no idea that this actually works. Like, this actually works. And more and more and more and more. It's like, it is a speed up. It is available. Yes, you just have to follow these instructions. And this is only like chapter 11. Like, it keeps on going. Continual recognition that nothing happened, that you're whole and perfect, that you're one with your Father, that you can align your will with God's. He will put his will right next to you, so to speak, if there would be a difference, but there is no difference. So in other words, he is completely supporting you in your idea to accept his will. So yeah, that's amazing. So this is what's happening reading the chapters. Like, it keeps building up continuously. And that is so beautiful. And you want more. You want to know more about it. Like, you miss half of it maybe, or maybe 10% you hear. But you want to hear all of it. And you want it to be your own. And this is great, because in fact it is an inspiration for your willingness to let go of any idea that you hold about yourself. Oh, here we are. No one can withhold truth except from himself. Yet God will not refuse you the answer he gave. Ask then for what is yours, and do not defend yourself against the truth. You made the problem God has answered. Now ask yourself, therefore, but one simple question. Do I want the problem, or do I want the answer? Decide for the answer, and you will have it, for you will see it as it is, and it is yours already. This is the pathless path coming to us again. Like, it is already yours. Decide for the answer. Do I want the problem that I'm perceiving, or do I want the answer that would completely dissolve this problem that I'm perceiving? Which is always related to the idea of separation. Do I want the answer? It's right here. No, I can accept it. Decide for the answer. It's my decision, nobody else's. It's my decision to do that. And you will have it, When you decide it, you will have it. You may complain that this course is not sufficiently specific for you to understand and use, yet perhaps you have not done what it specifically advocates. And this is not a course in the play of ideas, but in the practical application. See, now it's like, just do what it says here. Ask yourself this one simple question. Do you want a problem or do you want the answer? So that's so lovely. All right, so we continue with chapter 12. Miracles are merely the translation. Listen well. Miracles are merely the translation of denial into truth. If to love oneself is to heal oneself, those who are sick do not love themselves. Therefore, they are asking for the love that would heal them, but which they are denying to themselves. If they knew the truth about themselves, they could not be sick. The task of the miracle worker thus becomes to deny their denial, deny the denial of truth. The sick must heal themselves, for the truth is in them. Yet having obscured it, the light in another mind must shine into theirs, because that light is theirs. Now this is quite the statement, you could say. That's quite the statement. Miracles are merely the translation of denial into truth. If they knew the truth about themselves, they could not be sick. The task of the miracle worker thus becomes to deny the denial of truth. The sick must heal themselves, for the truth is in them. Like that returns immediately when the idea of sickness is gone. Yet having obscured it, the light in another mind must shine into theirs, because that light is theirs. This is so lovely. This is what I love. It's so inspiring to me to hear this and read this again. It's like so beautiful. Like literally, like it is not that you condemn your brother because he reveals or he shows signs of sickness and he believes he's sick. Like that is never a reason to condemn your brother. Like, well, you didn't understand the Course in Miracles because you're sick, so you must have done something wrong. Like, no, you don't get it at all. Like, who is sick but making that kind of statement? So here's the thing then with the healing that takes place is nothing needs to be forced. No, it is like now you as the miracle worker, because that's what we're talking about here, right? It's the miracle worker. You as the miracle worker, shine this light into the mind of your brother. Why do you do that? Because you recognize it is your own. It is not separate from you. It is the love that extends to your brother. It, like that literally reaches him. In his mind, in his isolation, it will reach him. It will shine away the darkness. Even for a moment, it will shine away the darkness, the idea of separation, the idea of sickness. For just a moment, it can be released. And in that, like the return to truth becomes inspired. You know what I'm saying? It's like that becomes an inspiring idea. If I keep circling around in my ideas of sickness, nothing will change. And I'm literally stuck in that because I really see it, I really believe it, and it has become my belief system. Now here's my inspiring miracle worker brother. He literally extends his light into my mind. Suddenly I have an opening in which I see that there's a possibility that I had no idea about, that my belief system can be released, that I can let go of it, and that no separation has taken place, that there's no separation from God, that there's no opposing force, just like we said in the other chapters. Like there's no opposing force at work here. No, there's a power without an opposite. This is the one we share. and you're a whole part of it. It is working in you. Now, when you start to accept that idea for yourself, all healing can take place, because you're literally returning back to your wholeness, to your truth. And that, yeah, what can be sick in that? Nothing. So, wow, that is so great. I love it. You still want what God wills, and no nightmare can defeat a child of God in his purpose. For your purpose was given by God, and you must accomplish it, because it is his will. Awake and remember your purpose, for it is your will to do so. What has been accomplished for you must be yours. What has been accomplished for you must be yours. Yeah, so there's not a doing connected to it, but there's an acceptance connected to it. And a realization that it has occurred, it was successful, it actually already happened. And it's fulfilling itself in every moment. What has been accomplished for you must be yours. Do not let your hatred stand in the way of love, for nothing can withstand the love of Christ for his Father, or his Father's love for him. A little while, and you will see me, Jesus says, for I am not hidden because you are hiding. I will awaken you as surely as I awakened myself, for I awoke for you. In my resurrection is your release. Our mission is to escape from crucifixion, which is what humanhood is, not from redemption. Trust in my help, for I did not walk alone, and I will walk with you as our Father walked with me. Do you not know that I walked with him in peace? And does not that mean that peace goes with us on the journey? See, this is interesting. So it's relating to our transformational journey that we're in the middle of. So a little while and you will see me, for I'm not hiding. I'm not hidden because you are hiding. I will awaken you as surely as I awakened myself. Or I awoke for you, for I awoke for you. In my resurrection is your release. Yeah, me too. I love it too. I love it so much. It's amazing. It's like, well, this is the certainty that you want to experience. Like, this would be the only reason why we do this. You could say this is the only reason why there's such thing as the miracle worker. We can go through any kind of chapter, but this will still be the same offering. Like, here it is. Yes, Jesus is walking beside you. He already resurrected. So it is like, yeah, in that the accomplishment is yours too. You did resurrect with him, walking with him in this whole journey in which we are remembering how that all came about, but the actual occurrence is already there. In the present moment, you will realize that you are what the resurrection is, and that is right here, right now, happening. And like that's a given. There's no other way. Like literally, I am the way is what Jesus says, and this is where you walk on. You get all the support. It is accomplished. It is not that this can fail you or anything. It's like, no, you have all the security, because literally it is not done by you. Now Jesus says, he says, I will awaken you. So this is what's being asked, like, let that occur and let that happen to you. So it is not by your doing. No, it's by your recognition and willingness to release ideas about what you think you should believe or what you think you should do. Like all of that gets out of the way. The doors open now for realization. We are therefore embarking, and I thought I had to put this in, because it's really, I continuously recognize this. Whatever is occurring or whatever seems to be offered or anything, like we are therefore embarking on an organized, well-structured and carefully planned program aimed at learning how to offer to the Holy Spirit everything that you do not want. He knows what to do with it. You do not understand how to use what he knows. Whatever is given him that is not of God is gone. Yet you must look at it yourself in perfect willingness, for otherwise his knowledge remains useless to you. Surely he will not fail to help you, since help is his only purpose. Do you not have greater reason for fearing the world as you perceive it than for looking at the cause of fear and letting it go forever? Wow, another question. Look at this. Do you not have greater reason for fearing the world as you perceive it? Right? That's easy to admit. Than for looking at the cause of fear and letting it go forever? Can there be anything outside yourself that can cause you fear, in other words? Is there anything outside yourself that can cause you fear? Is there a world out there that can cause you fear? Is there anything outside of you? Is there anything separate from you that can attack you? Do you need to defend yourself? See, all these things are coming up with this. Then for looking at the cause of fear and letting it go forever. What is the cause of fear? Thinking that there's something outside of you that can attack you, that can destroy you, that can get you, that is standing right behind the corner to get you, maybe to kill you. So this is like, yeah, look at it. What's the cause of fear? Letting that go forever, because there's no such thing if there's only eternality, if there's only eternity. What can possibly happen if there's just one of us? What can attack you if there's just one of us? You do not want the world. The only thing of value in it is whatever part of it you look upon with love. This gives it the only reality it will ever have. Its value is not in itself, but yours. Your reality, your value is in you. As self-value comes from self-extension, so does the perception of the self-value come from the extension of loving thoughts outward. Make the world real unto yourself, for the real world is the gift of God, of the Holy Spirit, and so it belongs to you. See, this is a beautiful expression. As self-value comes from self-extension, so does the perception of self-value come from the extension of loving thoughts outward. Make the world real unto yourself, for the real world is the gift of the Holy Spirit, and so it belongs to you. Okay, so this is of course like huge. The power of decision is your own remaining freedom as a prisoner of this world. You can decide to see it right. What you made of it is not its reality, for its reality is only what you gave it. You cannot really give anything but love to anyone or anything, nor can you really receive anything but love from them. If you think you have received anything else, it is because you have looked within and thought you saw the power to give something else within yourself. It was only this decision that determined what you found, for it was the decision for what you sought. This is great stuff, huh? They will put you at work for a moment. I have to laugh because it's like, these expressions are just delicious. It's like now I just was to the point where I can almost grasp the idea of a real world, and now that's already like in pieces together again, because now I have to give to this world loving thoughts. It's like, great, yes, I can extend my love into this world, and then I don't have to fear anything back that would attack me. I am extending myself into this world to literally only give it loving thoughts. Now, here is my process, you could say. Here's my process. I'm accepting this, but I also see that there's something not right. And yes, my brother is reflecting that to me. Now, the fact that I see that is that I have missed something. Like, wait a minute, is there opposite to love? No, there's not. Is there an opposing power? No, there's not. Like a reason will tell you there is not anything going on here. Now it's my choice. Do I want a problem? Or do I want the love of God? Yeah, so every moment in which I see something is incomplete, I in fact put it out there and say like, well, this is incomplete. Now what am I going to do with that? It's like, no, you're not going to do anything with it, because the only thing that happened here is that you misperceived it. You did not see it right. Now, when I allow myself to release that idea that I think there's something wrong outside of myself, I come back to my peace and indeed get the confirmation. Oh no, that's absolutely not what I wanted to see. That's absolutely not what I want to value. Recognizing the love within myself, I only want to extend that. Now, if I say it like this, is like, that would be the short version. So many of us have stayed for a long time in this grievance, you could say, in which you think there's something outside yourself that is not right and needs to be adjusted, needs to be fixed, and needs to be attacked. And it might take years before you admit it. So here, in the practice of this, is a well-organized, very well set up for the release to shorten the time of attacking yourself. Because that's the only thing that you can do. You can attack yourself in your misperception of yourself. You can attack yourself. But there's no reason to do that, because it would only be a battle being fought it's like in your own little isolation, in your own little balloon. That's only where that takes place, in your own little nightmare. So when the correction is going to be taken place, when suddenly it's like the miracle worker shines his light into your mind and inspires love, recognition, then you see that this is one way, of course, like then you see there was no reason to attack. So the only thing you want to do is make it well, in the sense of accepting the truth about your brother and recognizing there's nothing outside of me. There's no two things. There's not God and something else too. There's no gray area in which to operate or to try to make a compromise. No, it's either I hold on to that idea or I let it go. If I let it go, my experience of myself will be whole. And I will recognize that. That's a whole different experience than separation and attack and conflict. So to experience yourself as whole is what homecoming is what resurrection is what peace is. So this is in fact circling around. I'll bring it all together, in fact. Chapter 10, 11, 12. Like coming from wholeness, looking at this with your whole mind, which is yours, with Jesus inspiring you to this, because look at what's happening. We're actually inspired by the words of Jesus, who is walking right next to us. Like, it's not playing with ideas that we do. No, this is given to you in this very instant. If this inspires you, literally you are touched by that light. Now that recognition is just great to admit. It's like, oh yeah, it's indeed, I don't have to do this by myself. This is continuously given to me. Whenever I'm asking for the alternative. It is right here. I pick up the book and read a line or read a sentence or read a lesson, or who knows, like read even the scriptural references that are in there, in the word text at least. It's like, that's right here. So inspiring. Now something else occurs, because in fact my healing takes place. I'm allowing that to take place. I've seen the insanity I was thinking for just a moment. I had to laugh about it. It was too ridiculous to even consider. Thinking that a loving God would leave his son by himself in his isolation. Like, that's a crazy belief that I don't want to confirm any longer. So I let it go. All right, so thank you so much for dear miracle workers. Thank you so much for receiving all this light that is given to us as lovely ideas that you can give away in your acceptance of it. So thank you so much for your part in that. And I hope to see you next week in chapter 13 to 15, which is also incredible. Whereas the Christmas chapter 15 is in there. Well, it's going to be good. All right, so the Christ can be born now. So thank you so much for now, and see you next week. Thank you so much.